involved in vetting him? And how did they not know that he didn't have a driver's license? I mean, that's a pretty basic thing to find out, right?
Any other questions about Mike DeWine, Attorney General's office? Any other questions? Joe, I'd be happy to answer that question after this press conference.
Could you? I'm going to ask the same question. Could you answer it now?
Me too.
Anybody else? No?
Sure, go ahead. Answer it now.
No one was aware that he had a training permit off and on for 8 or 9, 10 years. I think the reporting has been. No one knew that until it was reported in the newspaper. I immediately called Ed FitzGerald. I immediately called Nick Bias, the campaign manager, and we had a discussion about the internal vet that took place in the summer of last year that was conducted by the campaign and how that went. And we had a discussion about whether or not Ed had, in fact, a legal training permit and then a driver's license. I then spoke to Ed, and Ed said he's a horrible procrastinator. He apologized profusely. He said that he couldn't believe that he put it off that long, off and on. He had gotten, and then it expired, it expired. He couldn't believe it, nor could I, but he apologized to me, and he apologized to his wife and his family and his constituents. Here's what I do know. That driver's licenses, parking lots, and it makes for pretty good reporting for a day or two. But there is an ongoing scandal of charter schools, for-profit charter schools, non-profit charter schools in this state where children have been alleged to have sexual contact with one another. And a whistleblower came forward with those allegations, and the Department of Education spokesperson dismissed those allegations, attacked the credibility of those making the allegations, and never called, who would he have called, Alan? The prosecutor of Franklin County. Ever. Here's what I do know. I'm from northern Ohio. There are 6 water systems that draw public, or Lake Erie water to create public drinking. Among them, Ottawa County. I was county commissioner when it was built. Here's what I know. John Kasich appointed a non-doctor, non-medical professional to lead the Ohio Department of Health 3 days before what has been described the largest water crisis in the Midwest occurred, ignoring the requirements set forth by law. Here's what I know. The Ohio Environmental Protection Agency is in the process of trying to dismantle Ohio's certification of the Clean Water Act and the 401 Water Quality Program, which would, by their own admission, posted on their own website, allow the placement of dredge materials in all waterways of the state of Ohio. Here's what I do know. There is a heroin epidemic out of control, and there are no resources to pay for it. In fact, $20 million was cut from the very program the governor continues to talk about. Here's what I do know. Oddly enough, we do know that a chief of staff from Mary Taylor's office was fired. Don't really know why. Maybe we'll know after Monday when I file a suit to finally get the public records to figure out why. And another assistant to Mary Taylor quit because she thought it was an unhealthy job environment, work environment, hostile were her words. There are a lot of things we should be talking about. I don't think, as Mark Namick does, we ought to limit ourselves to just one per issue or edition. Here's what I do know. Mary Taylor's misuse of an airplane, or Mary Taylor's handling of it, her chief of staff, the scandal-ridden for-profit and non-profit charter school in Dayton, where sexual abuse was alleged and not investigated yet dismissed by the Department of Education, literally laughed at by the superintendent of the state. Here's what I do know. That for the next 90 days, 89 days, we'll be talking about these issues that matter most to middle-income Ohioans. We'll be talking about what issues matter most, and we'll let the people of the state decide whether they're going to vote to support John Kasich or not to support John Kasich. Whether or not we ought to find the truth of what happened in the Attorney General's office and support Mike DeWine or not support Mike DeWine. Whether or not they're going to want an auditor who's going to step in over at the Dayton Charter School, now under federal investigation, say enough is enough. Whether or not we're going to put an end to my filing of federal court cases, every one of which I've won, and stop John Husted's attack on early voting. Whether or not we're going to allow Josh Mandel to continue to use resources of taxpayers to conduct a campaign while serving as chief treasurer of the state of Vermont. That's what I know. That's what I know. Any other questions? Thanks, everybody.